Okay, lecture 3A, Public Perception of Nutritional Research. That's what we're going to be covering, looking at traditional methods and some new approaches which may help in the future. We're going to have a look at front of pack labelling for food first. It's something that everyone's familiar with. We're all familiar with traffic light labellings. There's a flashback to lecture 1. First of a number of flashbacks in this lecture. There are more academic analysis of the why of front packaging label. For our purpose, we'll use the European Food and Nutrition Action Plan 2015-2020, which will be included in the notes. This is a contribution to a wider strategic approach with an overall mission to achieve universal access to affordable, balanced, healthy food with equity and gender equality in nutrition for all citizens of WHO European region. There's no reason to read the whole report, but it's well worth having a look at the summaries as usual. It's got some good justifications of the reasons for front of pack labelling, which is summarised here. Not the words highlighted in red. These are mostly aspirations and worthwhile ones, but how effective they are is another issue. As previously noted, easy to understand definitely needs further thought in the light of health literacy issues, especially when numerous resources involved. It's also worth noting there's none of these aspirations are specifically referred to in the document. So here's a survey published last year. It's quite a big survey with 12,000 participants across 12 countries. Have a read of the paper for details. The countries range from Argentina and Australia, Bulgaria, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, Mexico, Singapore, Spain, the UK and the US. Participants were presented randomly with one of 5 different front of pack labelling systems. Again, have a look in the paper to get some more details on this. They're rated by participants on a scale of 1, strongly disagree, to 9, strongly agree, across a range of questions. I'm not going to recite the questions, you can read them out yourself. Notice the rating from 1 to 9 is, as we just before, a Likert scale. The final 2 questions are related to food company policies rather than individual perceptions. In fact, such policies are very largely determined by supermarkets rather than food manufacturers. As mentioned, participants were asked to rate one of 5 front of pack systems, some which you will be familiar with, other which probably not. We'll look at these in more detail in forthcoming slides, but now let's consider what is meant by interpretive and reductive. Reductive front of pack labels provide factual information about a food, such as the amount of key nutrients it provides in a portion. There is minimal interpretation of this information. The consumers must make their own judgment about such issues, which as we've seen, can be a bit of a problem in itself. Interpretive front of pack labels can be divided in nutrient specific, such as the familiar A above, and summaries which attempt to provide an overall evaluation of the nutritional quality of the product. Before we go, pause the slide, examine the systems, and start to think about what you see about strengths and videos. Pause the video rather. I'm assuming you're pausing now. Right, okay, we're back. As the authors acknowledge, viewing labels from a computer screen is a very different experience to examine them while in the shop. Since all of the label types are viewed in the same way here, it is reasonable to assume that this does not affect results in the context used here. Exactly how comparable, or to use a technical term, generalizable, these results are to supermarket shopping experience is a whole other question. The paper is slightly vague about the label used in graphs, etc. So here's a key. MTL is multiple traffic lights. RI is reference intakes rather. HSR is health score rating, and Nutri-Score speaks for itself. Okay, so a look at some of the results. I'm not looking at all of the results, but you can have a look at the paper again. To remove likely invalid results, people who gave the same response except when recording a 5, the midpoint of a scale, were removed from the data analysis. This is about 2% of the sample, basically just people who sat there going, yes, 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 yes. The results are presented as shown. The marginal mean can be thought of as the average value. The small bars on the top of each coloured bar are our margins of error, technically known in this case as 99% confidence intervals. And what this means is, based on the results, if we repeat the experiment 100 times, we could be confident that 99 times the results are produced by real data rather than random chance. That's a pretty high standard, and I must admit I'm not completely convinced. But never mind, looking at the results, we can see that all of the front of pack labels scored higher than the average 5 on both liking and trusting. Okay, some more results. These data are really two ways of looking at the same question. How easy a label is understand compared to how long it took to understand, which is really the same thing. It's a good method of asking this question, as it assumes the participant considers the issue from different but relevant perspectives. There are different results in terms of the ones that people thought were best and ones which people thought were slightly less good. Another question, couple of questions here. The first question, does the label stand out? Looks how easy the label is defined in the package. Very important, of course. The results suggest there may be some problems here. They're all quite low. Finally, a strong majority of participants wanted such labels to be compulsory on food. Other results compare different countries, but they're quite hard to interpret in the way presented, so have a look at the paper yourself if you're interested. Read the conclusion section, see if you agree with the authors. In future work, they suggest how food choices in the real world are affected across culturally diverse groups. Again, another important issue that relates to the things we've talked about in terms of universal design for learning. And it relates to the issue of computer versus supermarket. But the authors make no suggestion on how to deal with this particular issue. They just point out that their model produced these results. A reminder, we've seen this a few times, but it's always worth reminding ourselves, almost all research papers follow this structure, which we will come back to again and again, I suspect. Have a look at this paper to confirm the structure and think about the research question asked. Sometimes synonyms might be used, conclusions rather than discussion, for example, but the structure rarely varies. Okay, a little flashback. This was from lecture 1A, going way back. Where do you think this study might fit in both the big picture of factors that influence food choice and decide what sort of policy intervention this might be? Note that one answer may be possible for both questions. Okay, a sort of new technology way which may address some of the issues we talked about in supermarket versus sitting at a computer. Eye tracking menu systems have been used for many years to assess people's attention in the visual environment. Click on this link here, for example. This menu from Pizza Hut runs on a tablet and claims to be able to make menu choice based on where a person is looking. Not clear to me how that was validated, but never mind. Since this is a somewhat unconscious process, the video claims the software is providing insights about the user's subconscious. Again, what do you think about the claims made here? Okay, so eye tracking. The first image here links to a discussion about eye tracking. It's used in video games. Like the Pizza Hut menu, this relies on the user looking at a screen, so probably would not be very useful in modelling walking around a supermarket. Other systems use head-mounted devices. They're still somewhat ungainly and liable to get some odd looks in the shop. Again, you can see the information linked from the image. Some of you may remember Google Glass. This was a combination of computer monitor and camera, briefly popular with trendy folks. It was less popular with people who objected to the potential impact on their privacy and was soon withdrawn. Despite the occasional false dawn, Google Glass remains at best a niche product, although small-scale health print does seem to have some potential for the applications we're talking about. So there's quite a lot of interest in eyeball tracking food labels, but this seems to be built around screens rather than the real environments. So again, here's a paper. It's a bit outside the scope of this module, but read if you're interested in the technology. We've certainly done final year projects based on technology like that, and we'll no doubt revisit this again. Okay, there we go. Thanks for listening.